Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Heather. I see you in the chat there. So as I was saying, Ed's not going to be able to make it today, so we're kind of on our own. But welcome to the system admin SIG, and this is just going to be kind of an open forum to talk about whatever you want to talk about. So does anybody have any sysadmin-y things on their mind right now?
I might have found a new bug yesterday that I'm going to confirm today once we actually turn it on. But we're starting to allow, we have a lot of, we have a couple districts that are starting to do, have already been doing curbside pickup for a couple weeks, and they're going to start doing, let in like the districts have transfers between them, which would be great. There's a new bug coming in 2005 that would be great to have, where you can just limit holds, you know, instead of by home library or any library, you can limit by home group, which would be great to have now, but we won't get it for till the fall. But if you turn off branch transfers for everything, which we had already done, and then only turn them back on for the between the branches that are allowing transfers between them, it'll let you place and set the holds up right. It'll let you place holds, but it doesn't give you a warning on the patron side when you try to place a hold that you can't place. It just fails to place the hold and kicks you back to your hold screen. So that's fun. My internet connection is also unstable. I'm going to turn off my video and see if that helps some.
Do you have a bug number on that yet?
Not yet, because I want to make sure. I was just testing with like transfers between two branches yesterday, and we're going to turn it on for all 7 of our branches to be able to transfer between after the meeting I have at 9:30. And so I'm going to put in a bug once I confirm that it's not, I just missed like one setting somewhere being weird. And also put in a ticket, and Andrew said they'd look at it as well. But I'm going to put in a bug first and give them the bug number. And once I do that, I can send it out to the SIG mailing list.
Sounds good. Other stuff you guys want to talk about? In the chat.
In the chat there, yeah.
Yeah, in the chat, if we change reserve max pickup delay from 10 days to 7 days, will only affect the holds going forward. I don't use that system preference. Does anybody else know that behavior?
Asked that, I believe that if you change it, it will only affect the new things, but I'm not 100% sure about that.
Yeah, that would be my guess too, that it's not gonna be a retroactive thing, because most things aren't.
That's consistent with my experience too.
I think everybody's having an internet connection.
Yeah, it might be the Zoom room. It's pretty choppy today. It misses Ed, that's it. We need our Ed, I guess. So did that answer? I know that didn't like explicitly answer your question. Yeah, asking Slack is a good thing there, because I bet the educators at Bywater will be able to snap out a response real fast there. Okay, other questions? Feel free to put them in the chat if we're choppy, or chime in, unmute yourself.
I've got a question, just who's here? I see a bunch of names I don't recognize. I don't think it'd be a bad idea for everybody to introduce themselves. And I can even start. I'm George Williams. I am the Next Search Catalog Coordinator at Northeast Kansas Library System.
Great idea, George. I'm Jason Robb. I'm the Seek and Find Coordinator here at the Southeast Kansas Library System. I'm also the koha-US Secretary, and I'm also trying to get other people to moderate this SIG right now, so I'm in charge, but feel free to chime in. And Heather introduced herself in the chat over there. So let's go around. Christopher, do you want to go next?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. I'm Christopher Davis. I'm the Systems and E-Services Librarian at the Uintah County Library out in Vernal, Utah. That's northeastern Utah. We've been on Koha for a little while, probably about since 2014, and it's been great. So, yeah.
I see Daphne introduced herself in the chat too. I missed that. She's from Innerleaf in Ireland. Barbara from Bedford is here. All right, I'll just let you all go however you want.
I'm Lisette Sheer at Latah County Library District in the Valnet Consortium in North Idaho. I'm also the current president for koha-US.
And we have Shanna Pritchett from the Nevada Supreme Court Law Library here. That just leaves Joelle, Cindy, and Corona. And my screen keeps moving, so there might be more.
Hi, I'm Joelle Hanbert from Northwestern Michigan College. I'm the technical services coordinator and small staff, so I'm the only person at our college who really works deeply with Koha. So I thought it'd be great to be part of the community this way, but it's my first time on this call, and so I'm just kind of hanging back because what level I'm at as admin compared to all of you.
I'm Cindy Lee. I'm from the Bridgewater State University in Massachusetts. I'm a system librarian in the school. So this is the first time I attending these meetings. Hopefully I can learn from all of you. Thank you.
Oh, and I
I'm
missed
Jeff Gaines. I'm sysadmin for our Sierra system in Arlington County, Virginia. We are undergoing a migration right now to Koha on Bywater with our go live date of June 10th. So we have a very interesting experience going through migration in a virtual kind of setup. This is my first time calling into this as well. I'm kind of in the deep end right now, so I'm just kind of sitting back and listening.
welcome. And I think I missed Mitch as well.
Hey, I'm Mitch Morrison. I am the systems team lead at Bywater Solutions. And I come here to learn what you guys find important so that I can help figure out how to make it better.
Excellent. Okay, and then I see Corona is Jennifer Marla from the Corona Public Library. Okay, so, and yes, I think connection is definitely unstable. What if I stop my video too? No, then there's nothing pretty to look at. All right, I'll put my face back up. Nice to meet all of you. For the people that are new, welcome. Feel free to chime in at any time. We're here to help. Some of us, I'm sure we have like huge combined experience. We've been on Koha since 2008. I know George has been using it about that long, if not longer, or George's consortium has at least. And yeah, so feel free to ask. The Koha, the Slack channel is Bywater's support channel. If you're a Bywater partner, you can just email Margaret and she can add you to that. We don't actually have not that I know of, like a community Slack channel. So Joelle, are you self-hosted right now? Or you're supported by Equinox, okay. So there's still plenty of listservs. You can use our listserv, the koha-US one, the community one. Welcome, Janice. I've missed you as well in introductions. So yeah, we've got lots of communication channels. We've got mailing lists for all the different SIGs, and those are attended by everyone in the community. The community does have an IRC channel. Okay, and George mentions that they're talking about adding Rocket Chat, which is kind of like open source Slack for the entire community. But right now, the best way to get in touch there is IRC. Okay, it looks like Heather has a question about mana reports. What fields are searchable and how they're searched. If it searches the SQL, the nodes, both. I'm ashamed to admit that I haven't enabled mana yet on our system, so I'm not exactly sure what all it searches. Does anyone else know?
Yeah, we enabled Mana and I like it. I've gotten a few interesting reports from it, and I contributed one report to it, but I guess maybe because I'm approaching it from cataloging, I've been wondering what I can put into the notes field to make it easier to find, or if that even counts, or if I'm missing finding information on what's searchable in there.
I pulled up the wiki page, but it's not really, doesn't really elaborate on that either. We may have to dig into that a little bit. I guess one thing you could try is just testing. Like you could even push out a report of your own and then try and search for it and see what it hits on. Maybe you could put funky search terms in there that aren't real. I don't know.
Yeah, I can do some playing with it and maybe report back. Yeah, I found maybe I was just lucky with the reports that I imported, that all I really needed to do was insert some carriage returns. And I found I think it was a Monday Minute that Bywater did on the bringing this in from Mana and where to put carriage returns. I found that really helpful.
I think there's a bug out there to get that cleaned up a little bit, but I'm not sure. But it seems like, yeah, we have a couple people in chat that are not satisfied because you do have to clean things up. You can't just click a button and use them.
I think what happens is if you have the report formatted with line breaks, Mana takes out the line breaks and doesn't put a space there. It just, so one line runs into the next one. And when that happens, you end up with keywords at the beginning of the lines often getting munged together with the end of the last line. And so you've got to go through and essentially reformat the SQL in order to get it to work right. So as far as searching it goes, I'm not sure what it's searching. That was actually the original question. So like we've talked about everything really, but.
Well, it makes me feel better that I'm not just missing something that was really obvious somewhere. And all of this is another reason why I'm still trying to, with the one report that I did create, to put it in the Koha wiki also, because that's really easy to search via the find in the browser, and it does have the report laid out really nicely for copy and pasting.
Yeah, and I see on this blog post from Bywater that it just says search reports by keyword. So if it were a cataloging record and we were searching by keyword, it would just search everything, I would guess. But that might not mean the same thing in this format, right? It does. I would think that it probably does search everything looking at these screenshots just because they search by lost, and the first report is accounting for date range, list of accounting details and date range. So that means that the SQL part of it must have the word lost in it because the name and the notes don't. But I don't know if that works in reverse where it's searching the title and the notes or not. So sorry, I'm not helpful at all.
No, it is helpful. It really is helpful to know.
It seems like for something created by librarians, we would have come up with a better, way to search it.
No, we're often the worst at that.
Okay, what else do we want to talk about today? Any fun stuff you're doing? Any from the people that are new or just coming up? Any questions? I'm trying to think of what I'm doing right now. We're dealing with reopening, but not everybody. So we've got things set up where libraries can only, or patrons can only place holds on items at their local library, and which is just wrong for us because we're built on the premise of sharing. So it's been all like new frontier. But I think that's working pretty well for us at this point. We're allowing the libraries to kind of pick and choose what they're doing, especially since each individual county is in charge of their own response as far as reopening. So I do have some libraries that are fully open, but for limited hours, and I have some that are not, or they're just doing curbside. Some haven't made a decision at all yet. So it's been a little bit of a mess trying to keep up with it and trying to keep up with the Koha settings, but it is nice to find that Koha can handle that well-ish.
I'm definitely learning more about system preferences I had no idea about before. Like the branch transfer limits. We had, George, when he was here, he set up all the transportation cost matrix. And we didn't have any other limits, although I think we might use some for some like professional development and stuff that only circs within like the Latah district circs the Latah stuff and the Prairie River circs the Prairie River stuff. Being able to do that once we back open will be nice. So learning about system preferences that we didn't even know about before.
A lot of those branch transfer limits didn't work right when we started using Koha and Valnet, so that's why we didn't bother to do anything with them.
Barbara mentions that their holds pickup window is open and they have 500 holds waiting. Wow, that's a lot.
That's a couple of our libraries are in towns that don't have 500 people, so we don't see that same experience here.
Yeah, I think we had maybe 125 checkouts at our library, my local library, the first day they did curbside. But yeah, we usually don't get that high ever at any of one of our libraries.
Jason, this is Christopher. How did you set up so that items only check out from the library that they are owned by?
So we're using just the holds policies. I guess I can share my screen to show what it looks like. Let me pull it up here. I can try and share my screen. I don't know about this unstable connection. Let's do that. Okay, are you seeing my
if you
Koha?
can't get, yeah, well, we can see. Now I was going to say, if you can't get yours to share, I can probably try.
Okay, so the way I set it up, I'm trying to be like as hands-off on settings as possible and do as little as possible so that there's less to change back and manage. So what I did is I went into the Circvine rules and I set off a default checkout and hold policy for no holds allowed. So that blocked all the holds in the entire consortium. And then as libraries start letting me know that they want to place local holds, I'll go into each individual one and set it so that it's from home library, items home library, item returns home. So that's the policy I'm using, which makes, it's not perfect, but it makes it so that the home library of the patron has to match the home library of the item or it won't let it place the hold. It'll come up with an error saying it's not available. So that's my simple solution for local holds at this point.
Thank you.
Sure.
And that's exactly what we did as well, and it seems to be working just fine for us. And you know, the nice thing about the circulation rules is, you know, I can set that global rule, and then I can control it individually because the rules go from more specific to more general in their order of priority.
Yeah, our next hurdle is going to be when the courier starts, because I think we're going to tell people they have to lend no matter what, even if they don't want to borrow, so that the libraries can benefit from being in the consortium. I don't know how that's going to work out, but we're going to try that. We're going to open holds back up all the way and then close them for just the libraries that are still closed. Oh, sorry. Barbara wanted to see my home screen again.
We're looking at June 1st for the courier to come back. I don't know if you've seen that email yet.
Oh, I have not. Okay. So yeah, and we're planning to do a week without courier after it starts to try and let things smooth out. So that'll give me a little more time to figure out the settings.
Well, you'll have to look at Carolyn's email later today. It's going to be, the courier's going to come back in phases.
Okay.
First, Henry's going to deliver all of the stuff that they've got in their warehouses, and nothing but dropping off. And then the next week will be nothing but picking up. And then the week after that will be back to normal.
Okay.
Sorry, just Kansas business there. Everybody else can ignore
that. Slight sidebar. Okay, Barbara, here's my front page. It's really not. Is this what you're talking about? Yeah, I'm not a. The problem with using the news feature is it's not pretty on anything smaller than a big screen. So this I'm thinking about adjusting so that it's maybe down here, just so it's easier to read. Because if you're looking at this on like a smaller resolution, smaller laptop, then everything gets crunched over and starts overlapping. So when I get some free time, I was planning on trying to customize that out a little bit more. I know George has done a lot more work on his home screen than I have. Thanks for coming, Lisette.
I think I'll try and I should try and find the information I have about how to put up a tabbed homepage.
Yeah, you should share
news
yours.
Area. Well, I have the yeah, I can do that. So let me go to. See, I have in this area is controlled by the system preference internet main user block, intranet main user block. And I just added some CSS and some jQuery to make it so that the information here can be tabbed. Otherwise, you can put as much data as you want here. You can make this thing 50 miles tall but nobody ever gets to the stuff at the bottom. So this way they can tab through it instead of having to scroll through everything. And I'll try and find, I shared how to do that at, that would have been at the 2017 koha-US conference, the conference in Coeur d'Alene. And so I'll try and find the link to that set of instructions, which probably still all works.
So we've transitioned to this topic. Are there other like customization things you all have done to your staff client to ease use that you think might be helpful to share?
Well, this is a great time for me to say I'm going to be doing a whole 1 hour like thing about how to use jQuery. I think it's on the 21st.
Yep.
So if anybody wants to see crazy, stupid things that I do to make having fun with Koha more fun, that'll be a week from Tuesday.
And that will be recorded and posted to the koha-US YouTube channel as well, if you can't make it.
And there's a link for the instructions I did in whenever that was. I guess it was August of 2017 for how to add the tabs on the intranet main page. I'm trying to think. I'm sure there's other things that I've done to our page that this is something that I was asked about recently that is also done with jQuery and CSS. Let me share this screen again. So you can see my reports page there, right?
Yep.
So it used to be a couple of versions ago that the data you put into the note field in the report was rendered as a HTML. And then somebody changed, the developers changed part of the code, and so that data is no longer rendered as HTML, but there's a function you can add using jQuery to render that data as HTML data. And I've got a lot of reports. It takes a minute to load. This has been, since I came to this job, this has been one of my #1 pain in the butt kind of things. Is when I got to this job 4 years ago, Northeast Kansas Library System had like 2,500 SQL reports. And I've whittled that down now to where we're just short of 700 SQL reports. So when I see people that only have like 150 SQL reports like Jason,
That's not true.
I get really jealous. Was it you, or maybe it was Michael at CKLS?
I bet it was Michael, because Margie did a lot of work cleaning those up.
Reading, yeah.
Yeah, I have 632, so.
Oh, okay, so I'm getting down there. I might be able to beat you soon. This is taking forever. It's because of my slow internet connection, I'm sure. And now that I'm sharing the screen, that's just adding it up. Maybe if I stop sharing, it'll load, and then I can share it again when it does load.
While we're waiting for it to load, can I ask a question about the reports screen?
Sure.
Something that really bothers me about it on our version of Koha is that there's so many columns, and a lot of them I need to look at, and it would be so much easier to use if I could change the column visibility, which I I can do, it doesn't save that, you know, the next time I go to the reports page. And I was wondering if anyone knew of a way to make your column visibility be a default setting.
So I think what you're wanting is the configure column setting, which is under administration. I'm not, what version of Koha are you on? That may affect what, whether you have those settings or not. But if you go to more and administration, there's under additional parameters, there's configure columns. And then you can go down to reports and hide what's in the table underscore reports, which will be those columns in that specific reports table.
Awesome.
I'm sharing
Thank
my
you.
screen.
Yeah, oh,
Yeah, we see
Can
your
you guys
screen,
see my
George.
screen?
Yep.
yes.
Yeah, so if you go to the admin Koha administration page, and then on the right-hand side, way down at the bottom under additional parameters is configure columns.
I do have that. Yeah, awesome.
And then
Yeah.
you can save which columns you want to appear. And then if you decide you actually need one of those columns, you can go over here and just make those ones appear.
That's wonderful. Thanks, guys.
Oops. So one of the things that I do, these are some reports that I run almost every day, and I need to output them as a spreadsheet. But because I've got this function using jQuery, what I can do is I can put a note in the link here that's just, let me edit that in another screen. So I've got this jQuery function that runs in the Internet jQuery system preference that will convert anything that's in HTML that you put into this note field and render it as HTML. So when I want to run one of these reports, instead of having to run it and then download it as a CSV file, because there isn't a download option over here, I've got a link here so that I can just click on that link, and then the report will just automatically output to a CSV file instead of me having to run the report and then download it. I can just skip that step.
Very handy.
And yeah, it is very handy. It's I use it all the time. And that jQuery. But there are all kinds of things. Once you have the ability to put stuff in to render HTML in that in those note fields, you can do all kinds of crazy things. So let's see. So this is just the function here, and I can put that in the chat box. And then anytime I want something to become like the messages, the circulation messages used to also render in HTML, and then one of the developers broke that. And so if I want those to appear as HTML, I just use the selector for that input box, and then I tell it to render this, and then it uses that function that I just put in the chat box to turn those into HTML. Let's see. So I think those two things together will make those notes when you, after you run a report, or when you see this part of the report, it'll make them appear as HTML, which can be really convenient. Because then you can do all kinds of crazy stuff without having to actually run the report first. Of course, those links will only work with reports that don't have any parameters. If the reports have parameters, like if you have to select a branch, or if you have to input anything after you start the report, those reports you can't do. So you kind of have to hard code all your variables into the SQL.
I feel like I have a thing that does that, or I used to have a thing that does that, where you can, I guess you can pull the parameter from the logged in library and put that in your link if you wanted to.
Yeah.
I don't know what I did that on, but I feel like I did that at some point. Okay, so I see that Yuyan put a question in the chat about the serials module. If she goes to check in a new issue, there's no tab called print this label in the existing tabs, but it shows as many times as how many item holdings attached with that title. And the question is, how do I turn the tab off? So again, here I am useless because we don't use the serials module. Does anybody else have the same experience that might be able to chime in? I'm assuming that the tab could probably be hidden with jQuery. You just have to get down to what it is, get down to the ID of
Anything
it.
can be hidden with jQuery.
Right. So yeah, I'm not sure, but
Well, I'm pretty new here, so I don't know if I'm, but I know there's a setting that we've turned on. We're on, I think it's 1905, and it's under preferences for spine labels. It's called spine label show print on bib details, and it's a toggle to turn it off and on. That it makes a button that sounds like what she's describing, display for each item.
okay. So Yuyan, you might have that system preference toggled on, and you could try toggling that off to see if that helps. But yeah, if you're wanting to hide something, I don't know, Yuyan, are you a Bywater partner? Or supported in some way? I'm just throwing that out there because if you're not comfortable doing that, you can always ask them, your support company, to do it. And if you're not supported, we can definitely try and help with that. George's jQuery hacks thing next week will probably be good guidance on how to at least get started on things like that.
You know, I think what Jeff is describing, the way to find that is to go to the home page and click on Koha administration, and he conveniently put the full name of the system preference in the chat box. So, but I think even if you were to just search for label print in the search for the global system preferences, yeah, I think it might be as simple as switching this from display to don't display. But that's just a guess because I'm just like Jason, we don't use the serials module. We're talking about a couple of libraries maybe trying it out, but currently I know serials and acquisitions are the two areas of Koha I know the least about.
Yeah, and we tested out serials multiple times, and it seems like more work than our libraries want to put in. Their paper tracking systems work fine, and it gets messy. Our cataloger didn't like it, so that's why we haven't done it. Yeah, I would contact your support vendor then. It could be that I know that Bywater has been doing some, I forget what Margaret called it, some Chipotle mayonnaise. They've been doing some extra patches on top of things to kind of smooth out some of the problems we've been having with being closed and whatnot. So there may be something in one of those little micro updates that caused it to do that. So you might just reach out. Or it could just be a point fix brought it in as well. Okay, other questions, stuff you guys want to talk about? I'll scroll back through the chat, make sure I didn't miss anything.
I have something that I noticed the other day where, because our library's closed and we're at college, we're renting out a lot of Chromebooks and hotspots, and we have many, many copies of these. And I was looking at how it appears for patrons if they want to try to place a hold from the OPAC, and there was no place hold button. And I realized what was happening is we have a limit set on how many items will display on an OPAC page before it collapses. So we had it set to 15, just so it doesn't look overwhelming. And the hold button won't show if it's collapsed, if that's making sense.
Oh, that sounds like a bug.
Yeah, I wondered if it was. And then I went and I changed the system preference to like 50 so it would show all of the items, and then the hold button was there right away.
What's the system preference called? Do you remember?
Just a second, I'm sure I can find it. No. OPAC max items to display.
Yeah. Oh, yep, there it is. I think this is the bug.
Oh, so there's already a bug. Okay.
Yeah, it says cannot place a hold for Biblio with too many items to display unless viewing them all. So yeah, it looks like it's being worked on, but it's been blocked.
Cool. We're pretty new. We've been on Koha for almost 2 years now, but I keep forgetting how great the community is, and that I'll find things and they're probably already even documented and being worked on, which is really great, but I always forget to search existing bugs.
Yeah, I will note that this hasn't been touched since January 4th of 2019. So it might be good to go in there and add a comment saying, hey, we're still having this problem. Just to
Yeah, if you add a comment, and if we can talk everybody in this room to go in and make a comment on it, then the developers might be more amenable to doing something about it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's not usually that important, but we are definitely seeing, it's coming up more now because of the types of items that are being held.
And it does seem like, although this one's blocked, it looks like maybe there needs to be more discussion on it because they weren't really sure where to take it. So yeah, any sort of input on those bug tickets is helpful for getting things fixed faster.
And I did just add bugs at koha-US to the CCs on it. So.
Oh, that's a good time to plug it.
Yeah, anytime we have one of these meetings or any koha-US meeting, and we talk about bugs, we try to add, koha-US has email address that we try to add as a CC on all the bugs we talk about so that we can keep track of them.
And if you want to see our list of bugs, you can go to koha-us.org/bugs. And there's a feed on there of everything we're subscribed to right now. So that is useful.
And I should go in and clean some of these up because I know several of these have been resolved. So some of them don't apply anymore. They're no longer need to be followed.
But I didn't know about that bug, so thanks for pointing that out, Joel, because we may have that issue as well and not even realize it. We do get some things.
I had never heard about it before, but I just looked at it and realized that I'm one of the CCs on it, and I've made comments on it.
Yeah, I don't know if it might be like intentional behavior because of the limits that there are on like holding available items or something like that, where maybe the system was wanting patrons to look to see what's available first.
It doesn't seem like it's probably intended. I think it's probably just an interaction that wasn't covered when they were developing things. Okay, other stuff you guys want to talk about? We've got about 10 minutes left before we wrap up.
For the Bywater customers, does anybody have any thoughts or worries about the upgrade coming up in June here?
I haven't even really looked too much at it. I know that we have a few things coming in that we paid for, like club holds. I think my main concern with the upgrades is some of my libraries are going to be closed and some are going to be open, and it might be messy trying to manage all that, but it's probably not a big deal. Usually they're pretty good. Heather says that there's so many cataloging enhancements. That's exciting. Sorry, George, go ahead.
I was just about to say, Heather's excited.
I was trying to remember what else. I know we paid for a development that was to put the transacting library in the account lines table, but I don't think that one's coming yet. There were 4 or 5 that were slated for 1911.
I think the bug that the 3 Kansas consortia are funding, the item type limits by branch code, is in this version, isn't it?
I think so, yeah, that's one of them.
So if you have multiple libraries, you can create, right now you can limit collection codes to specific locations, but you can't do that with item types, but that'll be coming in the next version. You can say these item types are only available for use at these specific libraries, or the staff at these libraries are the only ones that can create things with these item types.
Very helpful for consortia, probably not so much for other single branch libraries.
Yeah, if you've only got one library, it does you no good at all.
Barbara mentions the CERC staff are looking forward to adding multiple guarantors for a patron record. I didn't know that was a thing. That's exciting.
I think that's something that we might have paid for. It's something that I think we might have had in the pipeline for a long time. Yeah. I think it's a Heather development that I inherited.
And I know you've got like a big omnibus, right, for guarantor guarantee stuff.
Yeah, there's a bunch of things like that that are long-standing developments that I inherited when I took this job. So the biggest one is the one to take the circulation fines and fees rules and change them from a table this wide into a table this tall, essentially. It changes the whole structure of the circulation rules.
It looks like Heather linked some of the changes that Bywater is talking about to the cataloging editor. So new shortcuts. It looks nice. I still haven't really convinced my cataloger to use the advanced editor, but we might get there.
I did have word from Nick at Bywater. There's a development that Nichols is funding with Hoopla that would make the Hoopla content available in the OPAC the same way that Overdrive content can be made available in the OPAC now. So, and Nick is going to install that whole package of patches onto our test server after we upgrade to 1911. So that I can start testing that and seeing how it works. So
that is
I'm really looking
exciting.
forward to that. Yeah.
Yeah. Except we're our Hubli usage went up like astronomically. So
yeah, our Hubli usage is up like 133. It's up over 33% from last month, which was up 27% over the month before that. So.
It looks like Barbara has a question over here. Bug 17168 talks about adding a command line script for updating patron categories based on status. How do we use a command line script? That's a great question. I don't know. Is it just the run database? I don't know. Maybe Mitch knows. You do system-y things, right? I know you can't do that kind of stuff in the sandboxes. You would have to have like a Koha dev box to do that, right?
No, but we're in the process of kind of tweaking the sandboxes to add some of this, functionality to it. But yeah, you would, for a command line script, since there's not really a launcher interface, on Go, it becomes a shell script that you'd have to get a terminal window access to it to launch it. I am all but certain, though, that that's something in the long term, making that a little bit easier for everybody to get at. But that's part of falling into how we're playing with the Docker setup. And we just got the Docker image tweaked, the available Docker image tweaked enough so that you can test mail with it now. If you're sending mail out, it'll write it to a text file and you'll be able to see that. So some of these changes are still kind of, messy. But the short answer is, to run the script, you would need shell access to your Koha.
Thank you.
And for what it's worth, guys, I'm not worried about upgrades. That's why I'm here, is to try to make them go as smoothly as possible to you.
Yeah, in the past we had, not with Bywater. Pre-Bywater we had poor experiences. Once we moved to Bywater, it's been smooth sailing. I think my bigger concern is I'm gonna have libraries come back in June and July, and they're just not gonna know what's going on because they've been ignoring all my emails about the changes, which is just a people management thing that I have to deal with anyways. So no big deal.
That's, one of the other things I can show everybody. This is something that I try to do with, when I have to get in touch with people, when I absolutely need them to respond to me, I put on a message that's really annoying. Like every time you scroll over this, it changes the whole background color. And as soon as they tell me that they're open again, I can make that all disappear. But I know exactly what you mean. Is it's impossible to get people to respond and listen and answer their email, and it's hard for people to even get me to respond and listen and answer their email. Kevin from EBSCO has been bugging me all like the last 2 weeks about something. So.
Are you at all worried about giving people seizures with your flashing screens?
No.
Okay.
I kind of prefer that happens.
Oh, I see Cindy's leaving. Thanks, Cindy, for joining us.
Bye, Cindy.
Okay, well, if there aren't any other questions, comments, etc., it looks like we're about at time. So any last thoughts, words of wisdom for the system admins group? Doesn't look like it. Okay, so this recording will be posted this afternoon if I can get to it on our YouTube channel, and we'll meet same date and time next month. So thanks everybody for coming, and I will